Hi, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Coaching Call podcast. On this podcast, we'll cover various types of coaching by trainers in sports, martial arts, fitness, and business. We'll discuss each coach's methods to getting the most out of their respective athletes or clients and how they attempt to change the platform in which they coach. Join us on a fun adventure as we discuss unique coaching styles. Coaching is a universal part of how we get others to get something done. Join your host, Rafael, and his guests on this unique journey in coaching.
Hi, I'm Sifu Rafael, and this is the Coaching Call podcast. If you enjoy this episode, please subscribe and leave a review. This episode was made possible by listeners like you. Brigitta, how are you, my friend? How's everything going?
Rafael, I am so happy to be here and everything is going fantastic. It is the beginning of the year and feels like I hit the ground running.
It is. Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Yes. Wow. You are everywhere. You're on the show. You're my co-host. What? I love it. I got to tell you, Brigitta, you are such an incredible human being, and I am so blessed to have had a chance to meet you many years ago when you were a guest on my show. And this is not a recap of that show, but this is a what's going on show.
A continuation. Yeah, I love it.
Yes. So two of the things that I truly want to know is you have two incredible businesses. One is your Montessori school, and the other one is your NLP training center. I would love to know what inspired you to start them, and which one did you start with?
Yeah. Oh, great question. And well, first of all, thank you for having me back. I think the last time I was on this show was either during the pandemic or coming right out of the pandemic. And I think everyone can relate that a lot has happened since. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is today's January 8th, 2025. So it's been 5 years since we first heard about, what was going on in the world. A lot has happened, not just for me. I'm pretty sure for you and for everyone else that's watching. To go into the question that you asked, what was first and for what purpose did I create that business? And I have several other business structures underneath that umbrella. The Montessori school was first. The Montessori school was my first business. That's not completely true, but it's my first lasting business that I built. And it started when I was a little girl. That seed was planted when I was a little girl, and I went to school. I went to German public school, like everyone else, all of my friends. I grew up in a 600 people village, small village, beautiful with vineyards all around. Most of my friends, their parents had a vineyard or still have a vineyard, or the vineyard was passed on to my friends. Some of my friends still live in that same village, still live in the same house that their parents lived in. They passed on a legacy, and now they're in the winemaking business. And out of that, it was gorgeous. It was gorgeous where I grew up, but it was also very, very small and therefore small-minded, and I needed to get out of there. And I went through public school, kindergarten, elementary, middle, high school in Germany. And I always stood out like a sore thumb, and I never belonged. I had friends, but the older I grew, I was like, I feel like this proverbial square cylinder that they're trying to pound into a round hole. And the pounding was painful. It was emotionally, it was mentally, it was physically painful, and it manifested itself physically as well. And as I was growing up, first I went through depressions and frustration and rebellion and all of those things and all of those feelings, until I went to continue to go to school, and I went to school to become a teacher. I never became a teacher coming out of school. But during my studies of social pedagogy, we studied about Maria Montessori. And I was like, that's interesting. And we literally just studied about her for a half a day, maybe. Maybe it was only 2 hours. But the methodology of Maria Montessori, taking each child at their own pace, at their own time, in their own mindset, in their own skills and capabilities, I was like, wait, can we just pause here and say, why have I not ever heard of Maria Montessori before? Because she's my hero. And I started to read more about her. And she was actually nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize in the, 60s-ish. Don't quote me on it. So, fast forward, I knew that when I had children, and it wasn't until much later in my 30s that I had children, that when I have children, they are not going to go to public school. They are going to go to Montessori school. That's how that all started. And it started with me just not fitting in. And out of that, when I went to school again. I got a marketing degree, and I never went into teaching. But then after I graduated from marketing, and I got a great job for Murdoch Holding in Munich, I met my husband, my now husband, Christian. And we both worked for a publishing house, and we really liked each other. That was in our late 20s, and it was clear that we're going to have children together. It was clear that we're going to get married and that we're going to have children together. And from the very beginning, I said, I want our children to go to a Montessori school. And I could even see us living abroad at some time, because both of my husband and I, we were, globetrotters, see the world, outside thinkers. And we were like, yeah, let's do it. And so we got married. This is all, I'm giving you the short version here. We got married. We had our first daughter, Amelie. She was born in Munich. And I wanted her to go to Montessori school. And there was a 3-year wait list. And I said, wait a minute, there's an opportunity here. There's a real opportunity with the 6 Montessori schools in Munich. There's a real opportunity here. And so I put what I learned to use, and I took in some of our friends' kids, and I started creating a Montessori school out of our own home. The demand was so great that I was looking for a larger building, but if you know anything about Munich real estate, it's very limited. And if you find something, it's outrageously expensive. Munich, Stuttgart, and Hamburg are the most expensive cities in Germany. And, so again, we went back to the drawing board, my husband and I, and we said, remember when we said we wanted to move, elsewhere? I think now is the time. And that's when I took my business plan, our little daughter, and my husband, and we moved to the States. Sounds all very simple. It wasn't that simple, Rafael.
I'm sure there was a lot of complications going along the ways.
A lot of complications. So
moving
forward, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Just uplifting everything, leaving everything behind to follow that dream. That's incredible.
I wanted that. I wanted it so badly for my children, because I didn't want them to feel the way that I felt growing up. I wanted them to grow up carefree, with a can-do attitude, with there are no limits, there are no challenges, everything is an opportunity, there are no failures, everything is a learning opportunity, for them to truly become who they are meant to be. That was my goal for my kids.
Mm.
And I'm on the other side now. You know, Amelie's 22 now. She moved back to Munich 3 years ago.
Really?
I see that I succeeded.
Mm-hmm.
Was it all smooth sailing? You know, was it all, super fine? No, I thought I was going to be the perfect mom. Never was. Still continue to have to work on myself. But I truly see that our children have become who they are intended to be, with no limitations.
I got to tell you, when you said carefree, it made me pause for a second. Of course, I kept hearing you, but in my mind, I wanted to absorb everything you were saying. And I know that all parents would love that for their children. Some parents cannot afford it, to take their children to private school and so forth. I know that homeschooling is growing and growing exponentially nowadays. I have a couple of clients who homeschool their own children now. And the funny thing is, I have one couple who are my clients, and they were homeschooling their own kids until their oldest one said, I want to go to public school. Like, what? And so he kept insisting, I want to go to public school. So they let him.
Mm-hmm.
And he is so much more advanced than the other kids.
Yeah.
Because if you consider the amount of work you can get done when you're focused on the work, it's huge. It's huge.
Yeah, man, there's so much to unpack here. I don't want to diss public schools, and it has its place, but it's an outdated model.
Agreed.
I don't know if you or any of our listeners ever read the book by Napoleon Hill, Outwitting the Devil. And I would highly encourage all of you to get that book. It is highly controversial, but he talks about the problem with our school. And this was written in 1937. Mm-hmm. And it was locked up for a good 60, 70 years because it is so controversial. But when we can give our kids what they need in the moment and not have to, kind of push them through the processes that no child is left behind. Well, all children are left behind, honestly, mm-hmm. if we look at it that way. So yeah, I love what I did back then with the vision, and I presented the business plan for the school to my father-in-law because I took his only grandchild out of the country. And I tried to get him into the vision of what I'm about to do for his grandchild. And all he said was, what if it doesn't work? And all I said was, but what if it does?
Love it.
It continues to be the same conversation 21 years now. The school has been in place in the States since 2004. It was created in 2002 in Germany, but in the States it was built in 2004. And we have just in June of 2024 moved into a 15,000 square foot building with 12 classrooms. And we have close to 250 students. We have about 100 and some, I forget the number, 100 and some kids on the wait list. And, yes, it is a tuition-based school. It is a private school. And it was always my wish and my goal that we take in kids, and I sponsored them financially, personally, that cannot afford it. And I remember there were two instances that recently just flared back up. One little girl, Amelie's age, her grandparents came to me and said, we want this. We know our grandchild is gifted. Every grandparent thinks that, and every parent thinks that their child is gifted. But they were right, and she had no chance. She came from a very, 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 very unfortunate situation, and the grandparents built a relationship with me, and I said, I will sponsor her. And her and my oldest daughter became friends. She went to school, got a full ride at a great university in Tennessee. Just the smartest kid. And the grandparents, to this day, they text me randomly and say, listen, we cannot thank you enough.
Wow.
And another situation that just occurred a few weeks ago, when I was in the hospital with my mom, who had a heart issue, pretty bad heart issue, right before Thanksgiving. My sisters were in town from Germany. I was there, and we were trying to figure things out. You know, what are we going to do with mom? And she needs surgery, and what's the best way to go? So there was always someone in the room with my mom. And one mom needed oxygen. And we needed to go and get some oxygen because she needed to fly to Germany to have surgery in Germany. And I wasn't there that day. It must have been, it was Thanksgiving. It was the day of Thanksgiving. And we were here in Atlanta, and this was up in Tennessee. And I get a call from my sister, and she said, hey, the lady with the oxygen is here right now. I'm going to put you on speakerphone just to, see what we need to do. And we all on the same page. And then she put me on speakerphone, and I said, hi, this is Brigitta. And all I hear is, Brigitta, this is Deb Sanders. And I said, Deb is another grandparent of a toddler that I also sponsored, whose parents were misusing drugs during pregnancy. And the child really had no chance.
Wow.
The child now, from that quick interaction, Deb said, Brigitta, our entire family will never be able to thank you enough of what you did for our granddaughter. She's now in 7th grade. She came home the other day and she says, Grandma, I got all A's. There was not a chance for this child, Rafael. And it makes me emotional thinking about the chances that we can give children. And that's why I do what I do.
My goodness. A child is so captivated by what we do.
Yes.
Sometimes they don't even know what we do, but we can captivate them through the learning process. It reminds me when my son's 2nd grade teacher reached out and said, your son just recited pi in 2nd grade. And she's like, what? How? And I said, because I love math, and I'm always, when we're driving, when my kids could barely speak, I was reciting the times table for them so they would remember things. I was playing games. How many red cards? You count red, you count blue. And then we add them, subtract them, do this, do that, times them. So my kids were always learning in the car. I didn't play music. I played things that they can learn from. And kids are such great sponges. But if we just, and what bothers me today is when I see a child in a stroller with a phone and they're watching who knows what. Yeah. And that became the child care.
Yeah.
or stop talking to me, take this tablet, leave me
Yeah.
alone.
Yeah. We're
And
dumbing down our children with that.
oh my
Absolutely.
goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, and then we're asking for help, like my child won't listen to me. Well, guess what? Because you were never there.
Yeah. And, that's why I came into coaching and communications training, because parents would pick up their kids from school and they would say, Brigitta, share your secret with us, because clearly you have a different child at school than we have at home.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'll share with you the secret. It's called boundaries. It's called fun and learning. It's called consistency. It's called listening. It's all of those things.
Let's go back to the listening part, because you do have a gift. You do have a gift for our audience as well. Is the listening checklist at Brigitta, at your website, right? .brigittahoeferle.com. How important is it for a parent to truly listen to their child?
It starts out with the parents listening to each other so they can speak out of one mouth to the child. That would be the first step. That takes some listening skills right there. And it takes also to let go of this, put it aside so we can truly listen, and then be mindful of what are we listening for? We hear this active listening. Yeah, but what does that mean? What does active listening mean? I can sit here and I can actively listen to, the sounds that come from you. But if I don't know what to pay attention to, the tonality, the body language, the mindset, the little nuances that are not being said, the purpose for, what is my child trying to really tell me? Mama, mama, mama. I had my niece with her two toddler boys, a 2-year-old and a 3-year-old. They were traveling from Germany to New York, took a road trip down Tennessee, Georgia, all the way down to the very tip of Florida, and then all the way back up. And they came and visited us. And she is a master. My niece is a master at listening. And it was, constantly, mama, 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 mama. Yeah, Matteo, what do you need? Mama, mama. Yeah, Matteo, what is it? What would you like? That takes patience.
Mm-hmm.
And that takes knowing what to listen for. And it's so important. Yeah. So the listening checklist is a little reminder of what you can pay attention to, of what active listening actually means.
Yeah, I love it. You spoke about the importance of listening to each other as a couple before we can, and having that unit, right? That one mind, if you will. How do we raise our child? And you did that with your husband, which, by the way, I love your husband. When I met him, I was like, man, this guy is incredible. No wonder you married him. But I think he's the lucky one that he married you. But
I think it goes both ways.
It does. Because to me, children are the best negotiators.
Oh,
Mom, I want ice cream. No. Okay, they go to dad. Dad, I want ice cream. Did you talk to your mom? Yeah, she said to ask you. And then all of a sudden, like, well, okay, sure, have some. And then the kid's eating ice cream, and then mom comes over. She goes, I told you no, but dad said yes. Right.
Yeah.
So that's the perfect example of we need to come together to create one unit, right? And I tell you, the thing is, I never want a kid to stop negotiating, because life is negotiations. In anything that we do, it's negotiating with yourself, it's negotiating with your partner, it's negotiating with your colleagues, with your friends, with your bosses. How important is negotiating in your life?
Very. And I love negotiating. Our youngest, and she's 19 now, and we were joking when she was growing up. I said to my husband, I think she's going to be an attorney, honestly. The way she negotiates, holy cow, I can learn from her book. Negotiating is important, knowing what your well-formed outcome is. Knowing what you are negotiating for what purpose, or are you just negotiating for the sake of negotiating? And trust me, there are enough people out there that are just trying to push buttons that are negotiating just for the sake of getting a rise. So it's the difference between what's the well-formed outcome here? What are we negotiating around? And to your point, I used to tell my children if they would try to negotiate something with us, and they would come to me and I would ask, did you talk to dad? And especially Anna, she would say, of course. And then I say, so if I would call dad right now, what would he say? Because she knew. I am not just threatening. I am going to do whatever I say I'm going to do. I am going to do that. And I'm going to find out what's really going on. So that's also, making those agreements. We've always had agreements, and we had to enforce those agreements to be truthful to each other, to have well-formed outcomes. And those well-formed outcomes, if you're negotiating something, is it a win-win-win? Who all is winning? And that doesn't start when children are in their teens. That doesn't start when they're in elementary school. That starts when they're toddlers, because they are smart beings. And that's why I got into coaching parents and then in communications training and neurolinguistic programming, because children are innocent by nature. It's the adults around them, parents, thought leaders, folks on social media, religious leaders, aunt, uncle, grandparents, you name them, any teachers. They have an impact on how the child grows up. And this is what I'm known for saying. Children are innocent by nature. It's the adults around them that either inspire them or screw them up.
Oh yeah, big time. I got to tell you a story, and when you talked about how not only resilient children are, but how brilliant they are. Many years ago, in my martial arts school, I had a little dragon program. I used to take them from 2 to 4, which is very young for martial arts. And people go, what are you going to do? It's not romper room. I didn't do it that way. I would actually have bubbles, and the kids would have to grab the bubbles. They have to poke at them. And so now I'm getting their coordination. They would have to kick at them and have to chase them. And so we had all different kinds of ways of teaching kids. I had a kid who was 2.5 years old, and I had a big thing with the student creed. I have 8-year-olds who have trouble reading it. This 2.5-year-old kid came and read it out loud. 2.5, read all of it. And I'm like, wow, 2.5. Most kids can't even read, right? Until they get to kindergarten. And so he's reading. I looked at his mom, and she goes, I'm like, okay, I got it. The kid was just so hungry for knowledge. Later on, he's still one of my members, right? Later on, he was able to tell someone when their birthday was any given year.
Wow.
So if you said, my birthday is on April 19th, he would say, what year were you born? And then he would tell you the day you were born. And then you go, well, what day of the year is my birthday in 2032? He would do in his head, and he'd go, and he'd give you the exact date. And if you went and go through the maps, it was exactly the date. And now this kid, he's 17 now. He's looking to become a surgeon, right? And he's going to medical school, the whole deal. But it's a brilliant mind that we can help to harness if we put the time, if we listen to them. Because a lot of times, and this one, I don't know if it bothers you as much as it bothers me, but when I hear people say kids are meant to be seen, not heard, that drives me a little nuts.
Kids are meant to be seen, not heard. I think that is something that my mother was known for saying, because she would always say, Brigitta, why do we have to hear you before we see you? Because that's who I am. That's who I am.
Right. I love it. So you started the NLP Training Center. Were you not busy enough already with?
Well, I didn't start it. I was handed the baton. So
okay.
when I came to a point where I was very burned out with the school. You know, having once I started building the school here in the States, I was pregnant with our second daughter, Anna. And so I have two small children. I have a business that is just being established. I started the school in a small community in Tennessee. I had about 3 years of doing a lot of explaining in the community that I'm not bringing the devil into the community. This is a Montessori school. No one knew about it, right? No one knew what Maria Montessori stood for. And so, they're like, well, it's not a Christian school. It's a different methodology. And, if you can think of a small town in Tennessee in the buckle of the Bible Belt, I had to do a lot of explaining. I had to do a lot of, listen, it's safe. It's safe for your children. It's actually great for your children. And the first 3 years were rough. But then once I proved in the community that we were there for the community, I was asked to serve on the Chamber of Commerce board for education and so on and so forth. So then we were starting to be established, and now we're a very established institution. So I was burned out. By 2016, I said, I have gone now for, 12 years, nonstop. Summer through winter, winter through summer. We were year-round school. I need a break. And it was around the same time that my husband and I decided we want to move back to a big city. We moved from Midtown Munich to a small town in Tennessee. It was time for us to move back into a big city. And we started doing, a little bit driving around in Atlanta where we might want to move to. And about 2008, where we hit the real estate bubble, and I didn't know, if my school was going to survive, because a lot of the parents pulled their children out, especially the ones that were realtors and in the mortgage industry. They didn't know what was coming, so they pulled their children out. And when they pulled their children out, there was no tuition, right? So I was like, I don't know, I don't know what's going to happen to my school. And I started investing heavily in personal development just to build the business even stronger. And out of that, I found NLP, and I found a training center in Atlanta. And the founder of the training center became one of my mentors. So in 2016, I drive through Atlanta, and I just nonchalantly giving him a call. His name is Leif. He's Danish. And I call him and I say, hey, Leif, we're in Atlanta. You want to grab coffee? He goes, oh, that's great that you call. I want to sell my business. You want to buy it? Literally how the conversation went. I was like, listen, I am not looking for another business. I am not looking, especially not for another brick and mortar. But if God says, here's the road, then I am absolutely willing to look at it. So we meet. Fast forward, he handed me the baton. I took the baton and I ran with it. That was until everything was done, that was 2017 that I bought the Center of NLP that was established in 1986. Out of the two first centers of NLP in all of the United States. One was up in Wisconsin, and one was here in Atlanta. And out of that, I built it. I created something greater. He didn't have a brick and mortar per se. So we built something. We built the Center of Training. I had the plans. I had the building permits. In 2019, we were ready to go. And then what happened in 2020, and suddenly the building materials didn't just double. We built the building during the pandemic for 4 times as much.
Wow. Yeah.
So that's how I started the Center of Training and the Center of NLP.
Incredible. Having a wood shop, I know what the pandemic did to the price of goods. Right?
Oh, yeah. Wood became the new gold.
Oh, yeah. Tell me. I had done a beautiful piece for somebody, and somebody else saw it and they go, "Hey, can you build the same thing for me?" I'm like, "Yeah." I said, I thank God I got a little smart for a second. It was only a second. And I said, let me first find out what the materials are going to be. If I would have given them the price that I had given the person, a year before, I would have lost my shirt, right? I'd be here just in a vest with you today. And I went, because I had not done anything. I only open up my wood shop when it's a high quality work that I have to do. So I go and I go to all my usual distributors and I go, look, how much for this? They're like, boom. I'm like, what? They're like, yeah,
crazy.
that's everywhere. And these people didn't want the regular wood. They wanted the high quality wood, which is already expensive. Some of it was from Brazil and so forth. And so I go back to this client and I say, hey, listen, it's this much. They're like, what? And I said, but you don't have to do it. I said, everything. Go to the supermarket. Go anywhere. Go to Home Depot.
Yeah.
I said, I'm not going to build your stuff out of Home Depot stuff, but go to Home Depot and just see what their prices are.
Yeah, crazy.
I said, plus, you won't find the kind of wood that I'm going to use. And all of a sudden, they're like, we want it anyway. Go ahead. Right? Because they saw the quality of work that I can do.
That, right?
That's it right there.
When people see the quality, they're willing to pay the price.
Let me ask you, because you said something to me when we first started, and you said that you were not the best mom. And from this conversation, I can tell you, you were not the best mom to me because you were not my mom, but I can tell you're an incredible mom because of the care, of the understanding of what you needed to do for your children. When you take that much pride in who they are and you're willing to jump through hoops, not only for their well-being, but for their mind, that's huge. That's
Thank
huge.
you.
So you're beautiful.
As
a mom. I wish you were my mom. You're way too young to be my mom.
All I ever wanted is to make a difference in children's lives. That's all I ever wanted. I remember being a little girl and watching Annie. Remember Annie, like the first Annie movie? And I sobbed. And I just have to think about Annie and I'll sob. But I watched Annie the first time and I was young. I don't know how old I must have been, I don't know, 7, 8. I have no idea. I have to actually go back and look when it came out. But that was the day that I decided I will make a difference in a child's lives as much as I can. It'll start with my children, but also other children.
It's what we can do for them, right? Because it would be mayhem if we let the children make the decisions sometimes. But sometimes it's important that they're part of the process
Of
of the
course.
decisions. It's their lives too, right?
Well, and we got to work on us, on the adults, to actually have a positive impact on them. So it's, you know how often I hear parents to this day say, no, but you shouldn't be doing that, and you shouldn't be doing this, and you definitely shouldn't be smoking or doing drugs. And then you turn around and you look at the parents and they're not a good role model. Excuse me, do as I do, not do as I say. And it needs to be in alignment and congruent. So before you tell someone, your own child, someone else's child, check in with yourself. Are you doing the right things?
Brigitta, smoking is not good for you. You should smoke, right? And oh my gosh. So one of the things that I've always said to my own children is, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to guide you.
Right.
Whatever you're going to do with your life, I can't stop it. I can only be there to support you.
Yeah.
And thank God I have two beautiful kids, and they're incredible, right? One is 20, about to be. The other one is going to be 21 in June. The other one's going to be 24 in February. So it's coming up. But when my son calls me and he goes, Dad, I did this, and I'm like, oh, I'm so proud of you. He goes, Dad, I was only able to make this decision because of all the lessons you've taught me. And that, wow.
Yeah.
That right there
Yeah.
is everything, right?
Yeah. And that's my mission now. That's to equip adults to be graceful with themselves, but also check in with themselves. Am I doing the things that I should be doing in order to get to the outcome that I desire? And that takes negotiation, right? That Chris Voss wrote several great books, and you don't get what you deserve. You get what you negotiate with yourself and with others.
Oh, yeah.
But what is the well-formed outcome here? And I love what Michael said here. Michael said, listen to understand and respond. Listen to relate. Listen to relate, not to respond. And definitely not to react. Right. When we listen to relate, it is not a reaction, it is an intentional action.
Mm-hmm. It's beautiful when we give somebody space.
And validate.
Let me ask you, and I love, I got this from someone. It's not mine. I can't take credit for it. But when you mix the word or the letters of the word listen,
Silent.
and you rewrite it, it is exactly that. In order to listen, we need to be silent. And why is it that people have such trouble being silent when someone else is speaking? I want your take on that.
Well, first of all, we're in such a fast-paced world that silence can be viewed as weakness or vulnerability or laziness, or maybe even not having the knowledge of sharing something, and then be judged by the other. But then everyone has an opinion. So people might stay silent while they're listening, and I'm putting all of that in quotation marks. But what they're doing in their head is, yes, they're being silent, but they're definitely not listening, because they're going through their head of what opinion they have of what you just said, or even worse, They don't listen at all. And just when it's time for them to speak, like when the other person puts a period behind their sentence and is silent, that's when it's in their perceived mind time to spew their agenda out. But they weren't really listening. They were waiting until it was their turn to spew their agenda. That's not listening. That's waiting. That still is silent. But, really being silent to be present with what the other person is saying.
It's very interesting when you I'm a people watcher, and I think because you're an LP practitioner and expert, I believe you're a people watcher too. I used to sit on Fifth Avenue by the library on 40th Street.
I love that library.
Oh my God. I used to sit on the steps. If I ever didn't take lunch at my desk, this is when I was doing architectural drawings and stuff. I've done a lot of things. And if I wasn't working through and we had a little bit of time, I would go downstairs, sit on the steps, eat a sandwich or something, and just people watch. And if somebody's like, hey, we're going to go over here. I'm like, I'm going to go to the steps, right? I would sit there and watch people. And the way people communicate, you can see through the body language. When somebody's speaking and somebody's like, and so they can jump in, or somebody's actually listening. And then after the person stops, they're still thinking, and then they process, because it's that processing time that we sometimes forget to have, because we're so fast paced, like you said, in a world where if there's silence, it's uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
When there's silence, it should be because I'm processing what you said, and maybe I don't need to say anything. Maybe I just need to just smile
and validate.
Yeah, sometimes people think that in order for me to have a conversation with you, I need to talk more than you. Right?
Yeah.
Brigitta, you've decided not just to help people, help children, but you're doing it with adults through the NLP Training Center, through your coaching, through your training. You're a professional trainer. You travel the world to train people. I know one of the Speaking Prowess shows you are actually in Germany training people. So you do go to the different places. Why are you still doing that? Why? What does that mean for Brigitta?
It's part of my purpose. I was born with a purpose, and I love what I do. And I couldn't imagine doing anything better, because I know it has an impact. It has an impact on a spouse. It has an impact on the clients. It has an impact definitely on their children in some sort of fashion. When people have children, it has an impact. My father was a missionary, Rafael, and I don't know if I ever shared that with you. I'm pretty sure I have. My father was a missionary, and from the moment that I was a very, very young girl, he said, "You are a tool for humanity." And he said that over and over and over. And when I was little, I don't know, 2-3 years old. I'm like, I'm seeing a hammer in my mind's eye going, I don't know what that means. Like, am I a hammer? What? I'm a tool for humanity. But I never judged it either, because I was a little girl. So I carried that over the years. And it took me decades to recognize what he really meant by that. And he's right.
I don't think you're just a tool. I think you're a power tool.
Yes, my sisters, they probably say, yeah, she is.
What is it about the fact that you've had all this calling, if you will, your whole life has been to help others. What have you done for Brigitta?
Ooh. I wasn't ready for that question.
You're welcome.
You know, at the end of the year, on December 31st, we have, as a family, ever since the children were little, we have a mind boarding session. It's not a vision board, it's a mind board where we truly think about what is it that we're creating this upcoming year. And everyone, single person in the family does one. When the kids were little, they just scribbled, and then they started drawing, and then they started cutting out and really envisioning, and the things that they have envisioned that have actually come true is incredible. But also, we then did a mind board for the whole family. And just last year, I did a mind board just for me. Where do I want to travel? What is it that I want to do? Where do I want to go to a Korean spa on the weekend? Because I'm such a family person. I want to be there for my kids. And, you know, Amelie's moved back to Germany, so the times are limited that we get to have together. Anna's 19 now. She hangs out more with her friends and does her thing. And of course, I want to spend time with my husband. We've been married for 23 years, but I did recognize that I need to make time for me. And thank you for that question. And this is the first time I did a mind board just for me. Where do I want to travel? Is Christian probably going to come along? Yes. In some areas he might not. And that's, you know, I need that for me, or else I'm going to get to that place again of burnout. And when I'm burned out, that doesn't serve anyone. No one.
Not at all. Not at all.
So thank you for that
I love that you did that. Is this the first time you've ever done it for yourself?
I have done mind boards for me that integrates business and fun and you know, family and all of that, but never and you know, projects in the house and all of those things. Because I can go, I'm like you said, I'm a power tool. I'm an energizer bunny that runs on solar. If the sun shines, I'm good to go. But I've never done one just solely for what do I need to do? Where do I need to unplug to recharge?
Love it. I wanted to share this with you. So I have this, right?
Yes.
But a lot of people, when they do things like that, it's all over this, have tons and tons of stuff. If you see mine, it's very limited because if my vision board, my mind board is all over the place. I'm all over the place, right?
That's what you're manifesting, exactly.
But I only have 7 things on that board because those are the most important things for me. Yeah. And you're right. One of the things, and that's just me, right? I didn't do it. Does it include this one? Does it include that one? Does it include this? No, I said, I do that for those, and exactly what you're talking about. And thank you for I did it as a vision board. I love the mind board better because it's what my mind will get. So my mind got that on the board, but I love the word mind because it's our mind, right? The thought comes first. And when we put it out, we speak it or we write it or we draw it or whatever we do, it all starts with this. Right?
Exactly. That's where it originates. Yeah, exactly. That's why I call it a mind board.
I love that. I love that. When you said yes to being on Speaking Prowess as my co-host, and I love the fact that you didn't say yes right away. So thank you for that. Right. You had to think about it. Tell me, and I know this is a little personal, but why did you say yes afterwards?
Why did I say? Well, I live by the creed. The answer is always yes. Now, what's the question? So I am quick to say yes. And then I think of what are the other questions? Because there's always opportunities out there. And there are too many people dancing around the threshold and wonder why they're never going to get to the next step. They're trying to figure out all of the next steps before they take the first step. That's not me. And that's one reason why I am where I am today. When my husband and I said, we're building a Montessori school, I'm building a Montessori school, and we're going to start that in Munich. And then when we decided, okay, we got traction, we got 7 kids, we want to grow this. Okay, what's the next step? I'm doing it in Munich. Can't do it in Munich. What's the next step? Let's go to the States. And when my husband said, yes, we're going to the States, I put all wheels in motion. I called up a moving company I did the math. Do we sell all of our stuff, or is it cheaper to move it all to the States? We ended up moving our entire household to the United States in a big moving container. Cost us 15,000 euros. But it was definitely cheaper than to buy everything new and then, have the things that we actually love. So yeah, when I say yes, it puts something in motion. When I say I got to think about it, then I already have 5,000 other things to think about. Then I'm going to dance around the threshold and eventually it'll fall through a crack.
It's also important to say no sometimes too, right?
It is. No is a full sentence. And there are times when I say yes, and then I ask a question, and then I ask another question, and then I might ask another question. And it turns out with the answer to some of those questions, there is a no. But then I have, taken some steps, actually gone through it to then say no.
So
but
it's the process.
It's in alignment with who I am and what I stand for. And when I know the value that I give and the values that I come equipped with, it's easy to say yes or no. Is it in alignment, or does it get in the way?
I know we're about to wrap it up. I do have as a public speaker myself, you've shared some stages with some big names. How did you get to be on those stages? Was it you going after them or them going after you?
I said yes. I showed up. I continued to show up. And I showed up so often in my journey of self-development, and I volunteered my time, that people that were running these are stadium events. These are big, big, big events that they could not see me because I was always there. I said yes. I volunteered my time. I volunteered my services, and they could not see me. And people could not ignore me. And when they said, hey, if I would give you an opportunity to stand on that stage to be an assistant trainer, would you want to do it? And I said, yes. Was I terrified? I was terrified out of my pants, Rafael. I was terrified because I've never done it before. But I said yes. And out of that, I got better and better. And I was part of that whole team. And it started with showing up and saying yes.
That's the key, right? Showing up. It's also how you show up. Isn't that the whole case?
Yep. Always how you show up. You have no idea, Rafael, how often I get an upgrade when I fly because the way I show up.
Mm. This way, young lady.
Yeah. Yeah.
Brigitta, I got to tell you, not only am I thrilled to have had you on the show today, but I'm thrilled that you and I are friends. That
I
we
feel
have
so.
so much that we're building together. And I am thrilled that you are my co host on Speaking Prowess. Before we go, would you take 30, 45 seconds and just share with people? I'm going to put your gift here from everybody, um, what they can expect when they reach out to you.
Yes. So, listening checklist. We talked a lot about listening. It's going to give you the step by step on what to listen for. And that listening checklist also goes hand in hand with my TED Talk that I did. So, for the ones that are interested in learning more on the TED Talk, all you got to do is go on Google, search TED Brigitta Hoeferle. You see right here is the spelling of my name. There's only one Brigitta Hoeferle worldwide. So if you get the spelling right of my name and Google TED Brigitta Hoeferle, there's that TED Talk. I would encourage all of you go watch it. I didn't do the TED Talk for you guys. I did it for me.
That's why it's so great, right?
I needed to hear my own words. I needed to have that lesson for me.
Let me ask you, while you were doing your TED Talk, it was building something inside of you. You've seen it since. Does it still resonate the same message, or has the message inside of you grown?
Oh no, it continues to grow. It definitely continues to grow. There's a whole book coming this year. So it continues to grow. And that TED Talk came out of a yes, because it was TEDx Frankfurt that reached out to me and said, would you want to come and speak on our stage? TEDx Frankfurt, Germany. And I'm like, ooh, is it going to be in German? Because I'm much better speaking in English than I am in German, although German is my mother tongue. And they said, no. It'll be in English. And I'm like, yes, let's do it.
Love it. Love it. Brigitta, what a pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Let's keep doing things, amazing things. And everybody, this is Brigitta. She is as real as they come. And she, my friends, is a power tool.
Thank you, Rafael. Thank you for your friendship, and thank you for having me on today.
Yeah, absolutely. Everybody, see you soon. By the way, today at 12 o'clock, I have a special guest. Come join me. And Brigitta, don't go away. Stay on for a second.
All right.
Everybody have an exceptional rest of your day. Take care, everybody.